Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today for the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund information session. I can see that we have people that are still coming in, so we are going to give everyone a little bit more time so that they can get into the webinar and get settled. So if you need to step away and get some water or stand up for a little bit, that's perfectly fine. We'll get started at around 10:35, so maybe in about 5 minutes. So again, thank you all for joining. I see more people joining us on the call this morning, and we'll be starting in a few minutes. Okay, so it looks like the number of folks joining our webinar this morning is starting to slow down, so I think we can go ahead and get started. Again, good morning, and thank you for joining us for today's Neighborhood Opportunity Fund, or NOF, as we like to call it, information session. Before we get started, I just wanted to take a moment to introduce our team. I'll go ahead and start by introducing myself. My name is Sophia Carey, and I'm with the City of Chicago Department of Planning and Development, and I help manage the NOF Small Grants Program. For today's session, I will be moderating the Q&A, which will also, we will also be going through live at the end of the presentation. So as you listen to the speakers, feel free to send your questions through the Q&A feature in Zoom. If you look at your Zoom browser, either on the bottom or at the top of your screen, there should be a little function for Q&A. If you click on that, you can go ahead and type your questions into that kind of Q&A section. Some of those questions we'll go ahead and answer in writing, and some of the more common questions we're going to save and answer live at the end of the presentation as well. So, so definitely feel free to do that, and I think some of you have already started to do so. Next, I want to go ahead and introduce my colleague, Mary Kuhn. Mary, if you want to say hello and give everyone a wave.
Good morning and welcome, everyone.
Mary is also with DPD and helps run the program, as well as interface with our technical assistance advisors. We'll talk about our TA program today as well. And then following Mary, I'd like to introduce Ruben Wadi. Ruben, if you want to say hello and give a quick wave.
Morning, everybody. Thank you for coming.
Thanks, Ruben. Ruben is the NOF director with an organization named Summer Corps. And Summer Corps is the organization that helps DPD administer the NOF Small Grants Program. As you apply and if you're selected to be part of the program, you're going to get to know all of us pretty well, as we will be interfacing with you as a grantee on kind of a weekly basis. Finally, I want to introduce our great leader, he's great, not like a North Korean kind of great. Deputy Commissioner Jim Harbin, who helps oversee not only the NOF program, but also the Invest Southwest initiative and the neighborhood planning teams for DPD. So he really brings the NOF program together with all of the other initiatives and all of the other programs that the city has to really make an impact in our neighborhoods and communities. So with that said, I'm going to turn things over to Jim to go ahead and get us started. Thanks, Jim.
No, you know, with you using great, Sophia, I have to say thank you. Hello and good morning, everyone. My name is Jim Harbin, as Sophia alluded. I'm a deputy commissioner here within the Department of Planning and Development, and want to welcome each and every one of you to 2021's first round of the NOF open application period. Listen, we understand and recognize that 2020 was a very difficult year for all of us. But as Chicagoans, we are very resilient, as all of you know. And it is with that spirit of resiliency that we prepare to launch this year's program by providing much needed resources to our residents and small businesses to bring opportunity and hope back to our communities. So we have quite a bit of information to share with you today. So why don't we go ahead and get started? You want to go to the next slide, Mary? So we have 7 items that we're going to cover today. It's going to be the focus of this information session. The first one is going to be very, very obvious. What is a neighborhood opportunity fund? And we want to make sure that although many of you on the call already know what this program is, that those who are new to the program get an opportunity to understand it, and that also those of you who have been exposed to the program really kind of get the crux and the content or the context rather of what this program is trying to accomplish. We're going to cover who is eligible for the program and what are some of those eligible expenses. We're also going to walk you through the application process, so it won't be something foreign to those of you who haven't participated in the program. And we're going to give you some hints in terms of how the grantees are selected, again, to better arm you to participate with the program this year. You know, as my mother used to tell me, all money comes with instructions. So what we want to do is we also want to let you know what the requirements and the restrictions are on the programs, so you don't go down a dark alley as you begin to put together your applications. And then finally, what everyone is going to want to understand is what is the payment process and how does that work? And we're going to have someone walk you through that as well. Go to the next slide. So what is the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund? Okay, not too fast. Well, I think it's important, and I'm glad that this slide didn't get missed. The vision of the program is literally to make an investment. As part of the Invest South and West initiative that the mayor launched late in 2019, this program complements that initiative very, very well. It is focused on investment by the city of Chicago on the south, southwest, and west sides of the city. And his vision is to make those investments and to have small businesses literally utilize this tool in order to improve not only their locations, but improve their equity, improve their wealth, improve their opportunity to be successful along corridors in these geographies. Next slide. So what is the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund? Two things. One, it is a grant program that allows up to $250,000 for small businesses to improve, purchase, and expand their particular businesses. One of the things that some of you who have been familiar with the program might not necessarily remember is that this program is also a technical assistance program, which helps neighborhood businesses renovate and build their commercial spaces, but more importantly, to help walk you through this process. Part of this program is there to help support some commercial development by making sure that the respondents and that the finalists for the programs are local and that they are residents of the communities in which they're making the investments. We want to make sure we attract not only commercial development, but also cultural amenities. And we certainly support that with this program. And then lastly, we want to provide resources to ongoing economic development initiatives in the neighborhoods that many of you have already started. Next slide. So, many times we get the question, where do the funds come from? And it literally is something that is being looked at across the country. What we've done is we've looked at the development that has been taking place primarily in the central and west districts of the city and implemented a program that allows developers in those areas who want to increase their density, who want to increase their opportunity and go beyond the zoning that is set for those areas, and have them pay into a fund that in part does three things. One, that fund helps local development of that type, get local infrastructure committed like parks, some of the street and infrastructure components around that particular development. 10% of that fund also goes into our citywide Adopt a Landmark Fund. And then 80% of that fund goes into what we call the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund, that again is targeted and designed for investments only on the south, southwest, and west sides of the city. Next slide. So this program is literally enjoying success because of how it partners with local community organizations, with elected officials, and with other small business owners in order to help it be successful. We literally get help and assistance with our outreach. Many of you are on this call because of some of those partners. We also utilize that support by helping to identify projects that align with, again, local community needs and local community plans. And then it also provides project planning and application coaching to those applicants. So again, there is an opportunity for each and every applicant to be successful. Next slide. So here is just a couple examples of some of the previous finalists that we've had go through the program. We've literally had a dental office that you can see in the lower left side of the screen, a grocer. We had an art gallery, again, demonstrating that the program literally is looking to help support cultural amenities throughout the communities. We've had coffee shops, and we've even had local lounges and restaurants in order to, again, make sure that there's a diverse group of businesses that are supported by this program. Next slide. So with that, we want to go ahead and make sure you guys now begin to understand who and what is eligible for this program. And we have Mary Kuhn, one of my colleagues, who is going to help walk you through that. Thank you, Mary.
Thanks, Jim. So let's talk about eligibility. So the biggest thing with eligibility for NOF is that the property is a commercial property and that the funds are going into a commercial use. So a tenant can be eligible as long as you have landlord approval. So we're going to ask you for some written approval from your landlord, or it could be the landlord is can also be eligible as long as we know what business is going to go in there, and we could see a lease or we could see like a letter of intent. Nonprofit organizations are eligible as long as they're doing a commercial activity. So examples of that might be, that they're running a cafe or they have a thrift store. Those would be examples. The project has to be located in the qualified investment area, and we'll look at that. We'll look at the map in a minute. So residential is unfortunately not eligible. It could be a mixed use project, but the NOF funds will only go towards the commercial part of that building. Manufacturing and industrial are not eligible, and social services organizations are not eligible. Daycare centers, schools, those are not eligible. Churches are not eligible by themselves, but if they are doing a commercial activity, they could be eligible, like the theater, cafe, one of those uses. Okay, so let's talk about some types of projects. So typically projects are either an expansion or a renovation. It could be a new location, either as a startup or for an existing business. We do get some new construction that's also eligible. And NOF can pay for acquisition, but the grant funds cannot be used for acquisition only. It has to be part of a larger project, and the acquisition would come as a reimbursement near the end. So there are two tracks. There's the small grants track that goes up to $250,000. Our process is very competitive, and grantees have 2 years to complete their project. There is a large grants track that is grants over $250,000. That has to go through city council approval, and the grantees have to meet the MWBE construction requirements and have a redevelopment agreement in place. We are not going to cover large grants in this presentation, but we do have contact information at the end of our presentation if you're interested in the large grants track. Okay, so what can NOF pay for? So generally we pay for the renovation or expansion. Minor site improvements are not going to be eligible on their own, but if they're part of a larger project, then they can be covered by the funds if your project is selected. We talked about the building acquisition, not eligible on its own, but as part of a larger project, and it would come as a reimbursement. Security, roofing, facade, mechanical, those are of course all eligible. Soft costs are going to be part of the projects, architectural and engineering fees, and then HVAC, plumbing, and electrical. Things that we can't pay for, again, we can't pay for residential if that is part of the project, if it's a mixed use building. We can't pay for things that are done to bring the building up to code. And then we can't pay for kind of the regular operating expenses of the business. That might be like inventory or salaries. And we can't pay for travel or hotels. There's one exception. We do have a bonus that Ruben's going to talk about later, the hiring bonus that can cover salaries, but there are certain conditions for that. And it's after the project is completed. So let's talk about the qualified investment area. So as Jim mentioned, this is the south, southwest, and west sides. And this area was drawn up based on census data for the areas that had the highest need. And this is also based on areas that did not see the investment historically and are at a disadvantage. And so that is our area that we focus on the investments. So we have 3 different types of corridors within the qualified investment area. We have the eligible, priority, and invest southwest corridors. Eligible is, you could call it like our baseline corridor. Priority is going to get a little bit more priority in the application process, and then invest southwest is going to have the most weight in our process. And we have these corridors because we want to focus investment on where the businesses already are and create synergies between the businesses. So in order to check your eligibility, you can go to our website, chicago.gov/NOF, and check to see if your property qualifies. So you would type in the address here. And the website's going to tell you if that address is eligible, which type of corridor it's on, and give you the next steps for applying. Okay, and once you've got your address typed in, you're eligible, you're ready to apply, the next thing you're going to go to is called the Project Readiness Quiz. So this is going to be 8 multiple choice questions. You don't need anything to prepare to answer the questions. And the quiz is just going to check to see if you're ready to apply. If you're, it gives you the feedback that you're not ready, it's going to direct you to our community partners and other resources to help you get ready. If you are ready, it's going to give you a code, and with that code, you're going to go on to the full application, which is called Submittable, and you're going to apply there. We have information about our partner organizations on our website. It's under applicant support. Over there on the right-hand side, you can see it, and they can help you with your application. If you don't have access to a computer, need some feedback on your application, coaching, all those different things, access to loans, please reach out to them for that type of help. Okay, and then once you get to the full application, it's on submittable.com. You're going to do your application on there. We're going to ask you for photos of the property. Bids are really great if you have those. We really encourage you to talk to contractors and get bids so you know what the project is going to cost and you have an idea about the scope. If you have any drawings, those are great for us to see as well, and a schedule for construction. We're going to ask for a proof of site control, so that might be a lease, a deed. We will accept a letter of intent, from a landlord or something showing that you're in the process of buying it. And we want to see that you have the funds available for your portion of the project, which Ruben will talk about in a little bit. But that might look like maybe it's a loan or funds from a family member, and you're going to get a letter from them. Could be a term sheet, or if you don't have that, even just emails with the bank are good to show that you have the relationship and that you're talking to your lender. So all the applications are online. We can't accept hard copy applications. We also can't accept late applications. And we'll give all those dates at the end of the presentation. So I'm going to turn it over to Ruben now, and he is going to talk about how the grantees are selected.
Thank you, Mary. So let's talk about how the grantees are selected. There are a few key metrics that we look at, and I want you all to take note of these metrics because as you're constructing your application, you're definitely going to want to keep these in mind, as they are very important to the application itself. So we evaluate applications a lot of ways, but there are 4 key components that we really break them down into to discern project readiness. The first one is called project readiness. This goes over how quickly the applicant can start the project, or how quickly can they break ground on the project. We want the applicant to have thought about their construction plan in advance of submitting the application, as that's a key determinant of just how ready you are or just how quickly you could begin, and lets us know that you've put a lot of thought into it, which then builds confidence within the project itself. And additionally, do you have site control over the property? This is very important. Do you have a lease? Do you own the site? Or are you the prospective buyer, the prospective lessee, or some combination, or something else? Do you have emails verifying that you've talked to the landlord? So that's component number 1. Component number 2 is financial feasibility. So this grant can cover 100% of project costs, but no matter the situation, whether or not you qualify for the bonuses that we will go over very soon, you're going to have some sort of financial contribution into the project. We want you to demonstrate the feasibility of your finances to cover your portion of the NOF project, whether that's finances readily available now or finances that are going to be available in the future. Do you have an itemized budget in mind? Did you bring a contractor in mind? Do you have an idea of how much this project costs? And in turn of how much of a grant amount that you'll be requesting? This is an important factor too. Component number 3 is the construction plan. So as I said earlier, we want our applicants to have constructed a plan around their build out or new construction. So we want to see what plan you have in place, and we want to see the details of this plan. So have you developed a project timeline? Do you have preliminary designs to show us to prove that you've really put the rubber on the road in terms of getting this project started? And again, do you have construction bids that goes into the itemized budget for financial feasibility? These are the things that really determine whether or not you've put a lot of planning into this. And again, it's better to take time with your application because there are a lot of components to it. It's better to take your time and get the application in about as perfect state as you can before submitting it. And one of the good ways to do that is making sure that you have a proper construction plan. And finally, as Jim was talking about earlier, we're looking for projects that have catalytic impact. So what sort of impact will this project have? What sort of jobs are you going to create? What benefit does this bring to the community? Does this align with the neighborhood's community plan? Does this align with the block's plan? You know, there are multiple plans, there are multiple visions that all individuals and entities within a community see for their community. So we want to see that you've given that some thought. And that you've made sure that your project aligns with those community goals. Next slide, please. So like I was alluding to earlier, there are 2 bonuses that will bring your grant amount from 50% up to potentially 100% or up to $250,000, whichever one it's going to be. Both of them give the same amount of money, but they are different in how they are dispersed. So the local residency one is probably the easiest to understand. This is if 50% or more of the owners have their permanent address, not business address, but permanent address within the NOF qualified investment area, whose boundaries we've just gone over. You can receive additional grant assistance of 25% of total project cost, bringing your grant up to 75% from 50. Again, this is if 50% or more of the owners live in the qualified investment area. This grant is given out during the life of the construction project. So again, it's money that you receive or your contractor receives throughout the life of the project. Local hiring is a little bit different. So local hiring, again, is a 25% bonus that could bring your grant amount from 50% to 75%. Or if you stack it on top of local residency, which you can do, it can bring it from 75% to 100%. So it's a little bit different from local residency, though, because where the local residency is paid out during the life of the project, the local hiring bonus is paid out after the project is complete. So this is not money that you'd be able to receive immediately for wage expenses. It's not money that you'd be able to see throughout the life of the project for wage expenses. This is also money that can't be used towards paying the contractor. That doesn't qualify as local hiring. These are hires that you make for your business after the project is complete for business-related services and practices. These are reimbursed for wage expenses and training costs. And these employees that you hire have to, again, live in the NOF qualified investment area. You also have to have a minimum of 2 full-time equivalent employees working at least 20 hours per week. So again, once the project is complete, you can then submit your pay stubs for the qualified workers up to and receive a reimbursement for those wage expenses up to 25% of total project costs. Next slide, please. So let's go over how the grant looks like, and then how it's paid out. So grant funds are awarded based on the total project costs. We're going to refer to that as TPC for short, and eligibility for the building community wealth bonuses, eligibility that we've just gone over for local residency and local hiring. I do want to say before I get into this, regardless of the total project cost, the maximum award amount for small grants is $250,000. So if you're doing $1 million project, the 50, 75, or 100% grant rule does not apply for this program. This is just for NOF small. If it's $1 million project cost, the highest grant amount that you can receive is $250,000. So it's either the percentage or the cap of 250, whichever is less. So let's go over the TPC, or let's go over the financial pie using TPC, or total project cost, again, of $100,000. The base grant amount for $100,000 total project cost, or TPC, is going to be 50% of the eligible costs, assuming all costs are eligible. This would be $50,000. For the local residency bonus, if 50% or more of your business owners, and by the way, for the local residency bonus, nonprofits cannot get this bonus as they do not have owners. However, if you have some sort of unique financial structure, ownership structure set up within your company, you're going to have to let us know about that to see if that does apply. Otherwise, nonprofits do not have access to these funds. Again, for local residency bonus, you can stack that on top of your $50,000 and then receive an additional $25,000 throughout the life of the project, bringing your grant amount up to $75,000. Your portion of the project costs are going to be 25%, or $25,000. So that completes the financial pie at $100,000, which is going to be your base grant of $50,000, your local residency bonus of $25,000, and your contribution of $25,000. Now you'll notice that local hiring is off the financial bar to the right. The reason for this is because we do want to emphasize that local hiring is paid out after the project is complete. So once all $100,000 have been given to the contractor in the form of you paying the contractor or you setting this up through escrow, once all that is paid out, we will then start paying out the local hiring bonus. Once we can verify your wage expenses, we're paid out to qualified individuals that live in the qualified investment area. So again, you do receive an additional 25% if you qualify for this bonus, but it's paid out after the project is complete. You cannot ask for wage reimbursements before the project or during the project, only after the project. Next slide, please. So here's what you can expect as a grantee. We do have a timeline here. So if you are selected as a finalist, you are then asked to submit verification documents and finalize your project scope. If you want to finalize your project scope in advance of becoming a finalist, as in you know what project you want to do and you want to submit it with your application, that's fine too. But just know that you're going to be asked to resubmit it because project bids can change in the matter of even, days or weeks. So if you're selected, you're going to spend 3 to 6 months as a finalist. Of course, we want you to finish up as soon as possible, but we understand if you do need more time, but we're not really going to go over that 6 months unless there are extenuating circumstances that require additional time. Once you submit all the documentation that we asked for, you then get what's called a conditional award letter issued to you. This means that the project's finances have been conditionally approved by the city of Chicago. This is an important document because you can't start the work before the conditional award letter is issued. I want to repeat that. You can't start the work until the conditional award letter is issued. So any work that's done, hard cost work that's done before the conditional award letter is issued, is not eligible for the grant. So let's say that you already started some of your project right now, 50% of it is done, and you're wanting to get reimbursed in some way for the next 50%. We can reimburse for that next 50%, but all project costs incurred before today, and then all project costs incurred before you receive your conditional award letter, will not be reimbursed unless they are eligible pre-development expenses, which we will go over shortly. So once you receive your conditional award letter, you then become what's known as a grantee for the program. You've moved on to the next stage of the NOF process. This is where you'll be spending the majority of your time as an active grantee or active finalist, if you prefer. You'll be spending 12 to 18 months here completing and finishing up your project and beginning your business operations or resuming business operations, depending on if you're a startup or if this is existing or whatever the situation might be. Of course, we understand that in construction, more time might be necessary than this, but still, we do want you to finish within the 12 to 18 months. So we're looking at a timeline here of about 15 to 24 months that we're looking for you to complete the project, or 1.5 to 2 years. We understand that things happen in construction, but nevertheless, we do expect our finalists and grantees to finish their project in a timely fashion. And if there are things preventing that from happening, we expect them to be communicative with us at all times. But if if we don't hear of any project progress, the application itself might not be able to go through. So again, timeliness is key here. Once you're done with the project, you become an alumni for the program. And this is where we check in with you to make sure that you are still the owner of the building, still the owner of the property, or both, and that you're still maintaining business operations, or that your tenants are maintaining business operations, and that you complete an annual survey. If you qualify for the local hiring bonus, this is where you'd be receiving reimbursements for wage expenses as long as they are eligible. Next slide, please. So let's talk about how the grants are paid, because you can actually get paid in all three stages that we've talked about. But I want to go over how exactly that looks, what exactly that looks like. The first stage that you can get paid in is the finalist stage, actually. But this is only for pre-development costs. So once the finalist has provided the legal verification, cleared city scofflaw, confirmed that they've paid off property taxes, or their property owners paid off property taxes, and other things of that nature, like site control, you then may receive a reimbursement of 75% up to $25,000 of your eligible pre-development costs. These include architectural design, engineering fees, permit fees, and other eligible costs, as long as they fit within the scope of the project and are eligible for the NOF grant. So again, you may receive reimbursement for these pre-development costs, but they have to have been incurred within 6 months of the day that of when you're selected as a finalist. If it's a year before then or 2 years before then, that's not going to be eligible. It does have to be within a reasonable time period of 6 months. And then if you incur them after you're selected as a finalist before receiving your conditional award letter, as long as you're eligible, as long as they're eligible expenses, that's fine too. For the grantee stage, this is actually where you'd be receiving the majority of your funds, or the contractor would be getting paid through escrow. So let me explain. So this grant works as either a rebate or it works through construction escrow. The rebate means you pay the contractor, assuming $100,000. You pay them the full $100,000, or you can pay them in phases too, up to 3 of them, and you receive 75% of what you paid them. So if you pay the contractor $100,000, you'd receive a $75,000 rebate. If you pay the contractor $50,000, you receive a $37,500 rebate. $10,000 is $7,500. You get the picture. So yeah, that's the rebate method there. That's assuming you have finances for all of the project or part of the project. And again, you can get reimbursed up to 3 times. You could also do this through construction escrow. So let's say that you don't have the full $100,000, or you don't even have $50,000, and you also don't want to be the only one collecting payment documents, because we know that can be a challenge. It is important, but we understand it's a challenge. You can then do this through construction escrow, where you put your $25,000 into the construction escrow. And then once you verify that, we put your grant amount, AKA $75,000, into a construction escrow. And then from there, the escrow manages payments to the contractors. You have to collect the paperwork, but you will have the escrow company and others on hand to help review the paperwork. But the paperwork is very important. So again, if you're doing the reimbursement, you have to collect that paperwork and be pretty independent about it. If you're doing it through construction escrow, you still have to collect the paperwork, but there's going to be more actors involved in making sure it's all correct. Either way, if you're doing the rebate method, that's if you have the financing to pay the project yourself. If you're doing it through construction escrow, that's if you only have finances for part of the project and you'd like the escrow company to pay the contractor. And then finally, as an alumni, this is strictly for the local hiring bonus that we've gone over. If you're an alumni for the program and you elected to do the local hiring, this is when you'd get paid for it after the project is complete. We will reimburse you for 25% of total project costs incurred. Next slide, please. So how are grantees supported during the program? We have 3 unique ways of doing this. The first one is the technical assistance program. We have a universe of lending coaches, architects, and construction project managers that can help grantees can elect to hire if they're selected to help complete the project. These are the services that they provide are historically pain points that grantees and finalists even have encountered when going through the program, because managing a construction project can be difficult. And we understand this difficulty, and therefore provide a list of TA technical assistance providers that can help out with these pain points. Lending coaches can help you find financing, architects can help out with pre-development expenses, and construction project managers can help manage the project, which again is can be very difficult, especially when you're dealing with so many actors. We definitely want you to think about securing the services of an architect if you're selected for the program. We do want to emphasize that design is very important. It's also very important for the permitting process. We want you to think about the aesthetics. We want you to think about the mechanicals. So you might definitely want to think a lot about hiring an architect. But again, lending coaches and construction project managers will help out with various pain points in the project. And now, even though this is for grantees that are selected for the program, you can still take a look at these technical assistance providers if you have services that you need outside of an NOF project. So you can always reach out to them for something else too. They're there to provide the services, but it's not strictly for NOF. So if you have a private concern, you can always reach out to them. The next up is concierge support. So this is where city staff is on hand to answer questions regarding building permits, construction timelines, inspections, business licensing, so things dealing with the Secretary of State, and other things of that nature. Again, going into the difficulty of construction project management, we understand that building permits can be a challenge. Getting city inspections scheduled can be a challenge. These are necessary though, because the project does have to be done legally, but you're not doing it in a vacuum. Again, we have a universe of support system to help you out. So if you have issues with the building permits, or if your architect or contractor has issues with the building permits, or even if you think that somebody who's managing this process for you is not having the easiest of time figuring out the building permit process, don't leave things up to chance. The city the city is on hand to help out with matters like these. And you can save yourself months worth of pain by just making a 2-minute phone call to clarify an issue about a building permit. We definitely recommend that you use these services. And again, if you do have private concerns, these are the systems. You still want to reach out to the city for these sorts of issues. So again, this is for NOF, but we want you to make you aware that these systems are also available. The city can also help you out with your building permit issues. You can reach out to the Department of Buildings or BACP and things of that nature, just for a heads up if there's a private concern. And then finally, business marketing. So we want to make sure that your project and your business receives proper attention. So we want to recognize your completed projects, your grand openings and ribbon cuttings, groundbreakings, whatever it might be. Whatever marketing concern need that you might have, we want to be able to fulfill that. So just let us know how we can do that. And we'll, of course, be in touch with you throughout the life of the project to see if there is a groundbreaking ceremony or ribbon cutting ceremony that you have in mind. Next slide, please. So let's go over a little bit of summary and what the next steps are. So you should definitely start planning your projects now. If you're just hearing about the NOF, and just hearing that it just opened a week ago and you're really antsy about getting your application in, I would advise you to take a lot of time to think about your application before submitting it, and use the community community partners that we alluded to earlier. They are on hand to help out with filling out your application. A lot of them might provide services pro bono, but of course, look at the individual community partners and see what it is, see if they have any requirements. But definitely work with their community partners. They've looked at a lot of applications, and we definitely encourage you to take your application to them, or take your application elements to them and have them help you work on them. So again, you might be antsy to submit this application today, but if you're just hearing about this program and you're not even really sure what you want to do, definitely give some time to your application and utilize a community partner as much as possible. All interested applicants must complete the project readiness quiz. Again, this readiness quiz is to determine some key components that determine a project's readiness. And these components are used during your application review. So you have to finish this readiness quiz. If you don't pass the quiz, or if the quiz does not let you proceed to the next step, we advise you not to panic, but to rather go back to your community partner and see what ways can you improve upon your project, and so that you can reapply, because there are going to be other application rounds in the future, or at least we anticipate that. So even if this doesn't present the best opportunity for you to submit your application right now, there are going to be future opportunities for you to do so. And it would be wise for you to reach out to community partners, both before you turn in your application, and then if you were not to receive funding, then to reach out to them again to see how you can improve your application. There are options for you to download your application. All applications, like Mary said, must be submitted online. No late or hard copy applications will be accepted. We still do get the occasional hard copy application. You might even receive an old copy of a hard copy application we used a few years ago. You cannot submit that and then be considered for the program. You have to use the online application system. We understand that technology might be a little bit harder to come by, might be harder to understand. Again, this is where you'd lean into your community partners to help out with that. But this is an online only application system. And again, the online application system is only for small grants. This presentation only concerns small grants, or AKA a maximum of $250,000. Next slide, please. So this is the basic contact information for the main parties involved in the administration and execution of the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund. It originates from the Department of Planning and Development. Contact information below. Summer Corps is the program administrator. You can visit our website to learn more about the program and then other financial offerings that Summer Corps has, because it's actually an originator for 504 loans. So if you're looking for a 504 loan for fixed equipment or acquisition, or even for rehab, go visit the Summer Corps website. If you have questions about the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund, please, the small version, please reach out to nof@cityofchicago.org. That's the small grants track. If you have questions about the NOF large, it's a different email address, nof-large@cityofchicago.org. To learn about all things NOF, please visit chicago.gov/NOF. Next slide, please. So now we're going to take the time for questions, but before we get into that, again, the website is chicago.gov/NOF. The key dates are for the round 1 2021 application window. We just opened it up on March 8th, and it's going to April 9th. Again, this is a great time for you, if you've just learned about this program, to utilize community partners to help fill out your application. We anticipate announcing finalists sometime in June. So a lot of you, when you submit your applications, you might be wanting to send an email saying when we're going to make selections, just know that that's going to happen in June, or we anticipate that happening in June. If there's any changes, we'll of course let everybody know. And then for 2021 round 2, we anticipate that will open sometime in Q3. The date is to be announced. The finalist announcement anticipated sometime in Q4 2021. That said, I will hand it back off to my colleagues. Thank you so much, everybody.
Awesome. Thanks, Ruben. And thank you, everyone who has been sending questions through our Q&A. We're going to go ahead and move into the live answer portion of the webinar today. If you still have any other questions or haven't had a chance to type in your question, please go ahead and do so. We'll go ahead and get started with some of the questions that were submitted earlier during the webinar. So we're going to start with a question that I think is a great question and has a lot of, I think, meat that we can unpack. So this is a question that was submitted by a previous applicant. So someone that had applied for a previous round of the NOF program. And their question is, will the city or Summer Corps be providing feedback on the weaknesses of an application if requested? And then secondly, and I think this is a good question for everyone, is what types of projects is the NOF program looking for? Jim, I thought maybe you could start by answering that second question for us.
The second question?
Yes, what types of projects is the NOF program looking for?
Primarily, we're looking for a couple of things. One, we certainly want projects that are aligning with a lot of the planning activity that has been conducted in each of the neighborhoods. And if you reach out, and if you're not familiar with those plans, that's a great segue to suggest that you reach out to the community partners that Ruben just alluded to in the last portion of this presentation. They are familiar with literally going through a process in which the community has signaled the type of businesses that they would support, given those businesses came into the community. So that's certainly one. The other one is we're looking for projects, whereas, I jokingly talked about, how money comes with instructions. We're looking for those projects that have followed the instructions, that are buttoned up, that are ready. And by the way, just to segue into the first question, we've had now many businesses who, unlike when we first started the program, where we were literally pulling teeth to get applicants to provide us with documentation, to make sure that all the I's were dotted and all the T's were crossed. Now, as a result of, not only the community partners, but also as a more educated applicant base, we're getting projects that are following those instructions. We're getting projects that have looked at community plans. We're getting projects that are buttoned up and not deficient. So in some cases, there's really not a lot of feedback to provide, but to apply again, because the program has become that competitive. In other words, just because applicants are not selected doesn't imply that something was missing. What it implies is there was another applicant who really was tying into some of those things I just suggested earlier. And what we are trying to do is to make sure whatever we don't get in this or subsequent rounds, that if you are vigilant and you continue to apply, that eventually we will get to your project as well, if that covers it, Sophia.
Yeah. Great answer, Jim. Also, Mary, I thought this would be a good opportunity for you to share a little bit about what you've been able to pull through Connect to Cook and those leakage reports.
Sorry, I was answering one of the Q&As. Can you tell me what the question is again?
Yeah, so can you share a little bit about the Connect to Cook reports and the leakage reports and using that to help figure out, what types of projects should go where?
Sure, yeah, that's a great question. So what we found is that in generally speaking, every area is a little bit different, but on the south, southwest, and west sides, some of the amenities that are lacking. One of the biggest ones is grocery stores, healthy food options for people. That's restaurants, smaller stores, but all kinds of retail, like general retail, clothing, all the types of little shops that you see on the north side. There aren't as many of those types of stores on the south side. Pet stores, all types of retail. Also, like family-friendly entertainment, places for kids to, of course, that's different under COVID, but we're looking forward towards the recovery. So we're looking for a variety of amenities, and then also cultural amenities are always a priority with NOF too. Places to go see, live music, theater, art galleries, those types of cultural museums. Might be a smaller museum, but cultural amenities.
Yeah, thanks, Mary. And I think just to kind of connect on what Mary shared and what Jim shared is, the first thing you should do is to take a look at the community plan for the neighborhood that you're in, see what they say. The information that Mary shared, this is information that is publicly available, so you can go to the Connect to Cook map and pull your own reports for your own area, and you should look at those reports, the information, and the community plans for your area, and see how they interplay with one another and what your business plans are to make sure that everything is aligned. Next question, I think we covered in the presentation, but is important enough. I wanted to bring it up again. What happens if you don't make the April deadline for this round? When will the next round of submissions be for this year? So before we answer that specific question, I just want to say we are planning to do 2 rounds every year. So we will extend that and say not just for next round, but let's say you get started and you realize you need even more time and you're not going to be ready for round 2 of this year. We will have more NOF rounds in 2022 as well, in 2023. So yes, we appreciate anyone who is jumping on this early and making sure to take the time to do their research, to do their project planning, and submit a true quality application versus just getting something in by the deadline that maybe isn't very competitive because it hasn't been planned out or thought through enough. Jim, did you have anything else you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, the only thing I would add to that is that, sometimes one may believe that the city only has one bucket, if you will, in terms of resources for small businesses. And that's simply just not the case. So we have other programs, and one in particular called the Small Business Improvement Fund. It mirrors the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund in many ways, not quite as much resources, but $150,000 is still nothing to really sneeze at. And those are ongoing across the city, completely independent of NOF. So, if you have a project that is ready to go, as part of due diligence, I would still reach out to, one of us on this call. Small Business Improvement Fund has its own team. On our website, it has the contact information, but we're certainly happy to connect you. Just checking all the boxes, if you will, to make sure that, just because one program is not available now, doesn't mean another one isn't or is available for you. So just being due diligent about your business.
Thanks, Jim. Okay, this next question, I think I'm going to toss over to Ruben. Ruben, will the NOF pay for cubicles and office furniture?
Thank you. Actually, those are not the types of expenses that are allowed under the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund. And in general, we don't supply furnishings. If you are going to apply for equipment related expenses, they do have to be fixed equipment and the project does have to be complete. But in terms of furnishings to that degree, we do not cover it. Now, cubicles could have a few different meanings, right? So we could be talking about the roll-up cubicles that you can buy from a Kinko's, or we could be talking about carpentry, like rough framing, rough framing and painting. So you'd have to be a little bit more clear on what you mean by cubicles, because we could be able to do them if they're fixed into the carpentry. But in terms of equipment like desks, chairs, computers, stuff like that, we would not be able to cover that through NOF.
Cool, great, thanks. Okay, here's a question for nonprofits. Nonprofits don't have any owners per se, so are they eligible for the local residency bonus? And if so, who would be the qualifying person? Mary, you want to take that?
Sure. So that's exactly right, that nonprofits don't have a single owner. So unfortunately, they are not eligible for the local resident bonus, but they are eligible for local hiring. So you, as a nonprofit, you can take advantage of local hiring if you are hiring locally, but not the resident bonus.
Thanks, Mary. This next question has to do with the local hiring bonus. Do the full-time employees have to reside in the zip code of the project or just any of the NOF designated areas? Ruben, you want to take that?
So sorry, I was answering another question. May you repeat it, please?
Sure. The employees for the local hiring bonus, do they have to be in the same zip code as the project, or can they be in any of the NOF eligible areas?
Sure. So they can be in any of the NOF eligible areas. If you're in Roseland and you have employees in Austin, they can still qualify for the bonus. And just as a heads up, because this has been a common misconception, the qualifying investment area is not defined wholly by zip code. So you may be in a part of the zip code that does qualify for NOF, but then there could be other parts of the zip code that don't qualify for it. We've seen people make the assumption that, well, I'm in the zip code that I see as eligible for the program, so I can do this and that. Please don't use zip code as your defining geographic trait. The defining geographic trait are the maps that we have available. We have the eligible commercial corridor map readily available on our website, and then we have our local residency map available on our website. But please don't make the assumption that I'm in the zip code, so therefore I qualify. We don't do it by zip code. We do it by qualified investment area. But again, to answer the question directly, yep, if you are in Roseland and your employees are in Austin, that's fine.
Thanks, Ruben. Don't go anywhere. I got another one for you, Ruben.
Sure.
This is a little complicated, but I think the general gist of this question has to do with getting a loan and whether having a loan outside of the NOF program covers the grantee portion of the grant. So I'm going to go ahead and read this, but then I think in general, we can talk about that. So this person has a loan that covers both the purchase of the property as well as a portion of the renovation. Obviously with the loan, there is also the buyer's portion, right? The buyer's contribution for the loan. So in this case, it's 10%. Will that be counted towards the 25% of the grantee's contribution to the NOF, or will the applicant need to come up with additional money to pay towards the grant as well?
Yeah, so if I'm interpreting this correctly, we're talking about the LTV portion of the loan. So there's 10% LTV, 25%. This is the loan to value number, AKA the number that you have to put down to actually get the loan. So it's your down payment on paying down the loan, if you will. If the question is, can your contribution of the loan constitute as your contribution to the NOF? No, because that is actually separate. You're paying the down payment so that you can get access to the loan. That's going to be your contribution into the project. I know that we kind of just did a whole kind of inception there, but I'll repeat it again because I know it's complicated. You're paying the down payment into the loan. Done. We're done there. So that means you have the loan. Now the loan can be used as your contribution into the project. This contribution into the project is a totally separate concept from your loan to value number or the down payment you make on the loan. Again, I understand that can be a little bit hard to wrap your head around, but just know that your loan proceedings, the amount that you have to pay for your loan, it could even be collateral. The collateral for your loan, whether it's a house or a box of watches or whatever it might be, all that collateral is going to be separate. Those are separate concepts from the contribution made into the NOF grant, which is not a loan. It's a grant that you don't have to pay back. So therefore, it's going to have separate concepts from your loan. But that is a unique loan that you have there. It's combination mortgage and construction. This is very common. I do want to say that I know this wasn't your question, but that is a type of loan that you can pair with NOF funds as long as I have a very direct line of communication with the banker about what their needs are. That's a type of loan that's very common with NOF, and that could very much constitute as your contribution, whether they're paying the entirety of the project costs and we're reimbursing them, or they give you, I don't know, a line of credit or something like that, or a bridge loan so that we can pay it into our escrow. There's a lot here. I understand. And I don't want to blow anybody's heads up.
Can I add something to that, if that's okay?
Yeah.
There's an easier way to kind of, navigate this. If you become a finalist and if you are in those circumstances, let's all of us get on a call with your lender, and we will come to the conclusion that makes sense for everyone. This is not designed to be complicated or be an impediment. As a matter of fact, we've been working the last 4 years to eliminate those impediments. And so if it becomes a simple phone call with you as a finalist, with our department, and with your lender, we usually come to conclusions very quickly.
And Jim is exactly right. We are there to, while we can't negotiate the terms of your loan per se, we're there to help make all clarifications so that you're not lost in the woods We understand it's complex. We're here to make it less complex. So don't be afraid to reach out to us. A quick meeting can really save a lot of trouble. Jim is exactly right.
Great, thanks, guys. Okay, next question. This one is pretty short. Are museums eligible for this funding? Mary, you want to start us off with that?
Yeah, so short answer is yes, they are eligible. It's a cultural use, cultural amenity, and also there is a commercial aspect to most museums where you're charging people money to come visit your museum. So yes, would be eligible.
Great, thanks. Next question, and this one's also a good question. If the project is in phases, will NOF pay for the costs identified for one of the phases of a larger project?
You want me to take that one?
Sure.
Sure. Okay, so if I'm interpreting this correctly, you're asking us if we can pay for part of a project and be done. The answer would be no. This does have to be a fully completed project. We can't just pay for a portion of a project. If you're needing more than $250,000, that means that you're going into the NOF large grant track, which is different from this. So that was the way that I interpreted the question. But it sounds like, but my other interpretation would be, are you asking if we can pay this out in phases? Why, yes, we can. And the phases eventually do have to lead to a complete project. But if you're just talking about us paying for a phase of the project that will not be complete at the end, then no, that's not an appropriate use of the NOF small funds.
Yeah. I would add to that, you know, the term phases can mean different things to different people. So let's say you apply for an NOF program to open up a restaurant, and you're selected. You come in to a vacant storefront and you renovate it and you get it all set up for a restaurant. And let's say you finish that project and you open your doors and you start doing really well in the neighborhood, and all of a sudden you realize you've run out of space, and you want to expand. You want to expand next door, or you want to expand upstairs, and you consider that kind of another phase of your growth. That can be a second NOF project or application. You'd apply for that as a separate one. Sometimes our applicants will consider that two phases because they'll always, when they jumped into the project, consider it as kind of, we're going to do this, operate for a little bit, and then we're going to expand bigger. So in those instances, we could also consider it as the first phase is a standalone project to open up the restaurant, and then the second phase, if you will, we actually consider a standalone project to expand an existing restaurant. Okay, this is a good question for someone who is looking to acquire property. So here goes. I have found a property and is working with a realtor at the moment. My question is, should I start the process of purchasing it now through financing or wait to see if I'm selected? Anyone want to volunteer to take a stab at that one?
I can take a stab. So if I can speak from experience, I think, you know, of course, the grant funding is, you know, it's very wonderful when you get the grant, and of course, lots of people want it. But I think the projects that are, you know, most competitive are the ones that you can really see that people are determined, and they're going to find a way to move forward. If they don't get the grant, they're going to move forward. And so I'm not telling you to purchase it or not purchase it. But I wouldn't make your project completely dependent on the NOF grant. I would, look at lots of options for funding and see how you can do your project. Like we said, it's very, very competitive. We get over 300 applications per round. So, it's never guaranteed that you're going to get the grant. So you might want to make up a plan A and a plan B when you're looking at your project. Maybe a plan C too.
Great, thank you. Anyone else want to add to that?
Not so much in addition, but just as an emphasis. Definitely, I think the moral of the story here is don't put all your eggs in one basket. So the NOF grant is highly competitive. We do want you to understand that. So any financial risk that you take on is indeed a risk because there's no guarantee that you'll get the NOF financing. We do want you to be project ready. We do want you to keep these things in consideration. We do want you to make progress. But in terms of any financial contribution, like putting down earnest money to secure a property, or even, getting a mortgage on it. If you're doing this because you want to buy the property and you know that there's going to be a project here regardless of NOF financing, by all means. But if this NOF financing really is the key to this project being becoming alive or actually going through, then I would definitely see how much time you can allot to the lender or allot to yourself to make a decision about whether or not you want to close on the property. You don't want to make risky financial contributions for the sake of a grant you're not guaranteed to get. So definitely just exercise your caution, know that it's a risk, and just be wise with whatever decision that you come to.
Yeah, and I can't help but add to this. Again, we're looking for projects, and we have been very fortunate to enjoy seeing projects that are ready, where that site control has been buttoned up. Now, do we suggest that acquisition be a part of the eligibility of the project? Absolutely. But we also have people after the fact, and then this is, I think, what I want people to think through. After we select our finalists, they're like, well, what was the matter with my application? And one of the things that we want to be very, very clear on is that the ones that were selected had the site, had their budget, had a great design, matched what the community was looking for, and matched some of the programming. There were a lot of matches. If your project is not necessarily in that category, doesn't suggest there's a deficiency. It just suggests that there were other applicants who were more aligned with the program.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. Okay, so delving more into the question of property acquisition, Jim, this one is for you.
Mhm.
Can an applicant petition the city to acquire vacant property in the targeted area?
We looked at that and had that as part of the program early on. And our process of picking up city-owned property is so bifurcated from the NOF program that we found very, very quickly that it was an impediment for finalists. So, and part of what, we're doing now is we want to make sure, again, that applicants, have that site control buttoned up. And if you're looking to use the grant program to acquire city-owned land, well, there's two issues there. One, you don't have your site control buttoned up. And then we really had to ask ourselves, should applicants be able to use city resources to pick up city land? And the more we kept repeating that question, the more we decided, no, we don't want to complicate our program with that type of programming. And we literally encourage applicants to have their site control buttoned up first.
Thanks, Jim. And I'm going to leverage that. There's another question. This is actually really unique. So I'm not sure how much this is going to apply to other attendees on the call, but there's a question of whether if you own the land in conjunction with a city entity. So not sure, I'm interpreting that as a government entity. So I don't know, I can't off the top of my head think of a situation where a property is owned both privately and by a government entity. But I think the point still applies. It doesn't make sense to use government funds to support another government program. So just take that into consideration. If you apply and are selected, obviously we'll go further into the review of that situation and see kind of what comes of it.
What we want to avoid, what we're describing here is basically double dipping.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna change direction for a little bit. We're gonna talk about local hiring again. Are applicants, work age children, and family members qualified to receive the employee bonus? Ruben, you want to answer that one?
Sure. So that one's is complicated for children. So specific for that, federal wage labor laws still apply. So you'd have to let us know what you mean by children. There could be smaller children or adult children. You'd have to kind of clarify what you mean by that. And can you hire family members? So normally the local hiring that we do is for individuals that are not associated with the business owners to make sure that the wealth is being spread throughout the community itself. Now, with that said, that is in general what we've done with the local hiring bonus, but you'd have to let us know how, in what ways these family members are supporting the organization. You know, what is their role? What are their duties? How long are they working here? What's their relation to you? What do you mean by family? Is this your aunt? Is this your uncle? Is this a godfather, godmother? Is this somebody that you consider family? Many iterations of family, we would just have to know what exactly their relation is to you. But in general, the local hiring that we approve are for those that are not related to the that are the business owners. And again, with children, you'd have to let us know, are we talking about younger children, or are we talking about adult children, working age? Again, all standard federal labor laws still do apply here. We apply those laws to the local hiring bonus. But then when it comes to maybe nepotism isn't the right word, but when it does come to familial hiring, interfamilial hiring, we'd really have to take a look at what you mean by that and what their role in the organization is. But the safer bet is the wage reimbursements are for those that are outside the family.
Yeah, thanks, Ruben. And with that, we have actually gone extended a bit over our time. Sorry about that, guys. Just wanted to, before we close up the presentation today, offer final thoughts from each of you. Jim, you want to say anything else to close us out?
Yeah, first of all, I just want to thank everyone for their valuable time today. We really understand, how things are, and for you to take time out of your busy days, it certainly isn't lost on us. But there are three things that I want to make sure people, walk away from this info session with. One of which is understanding that this program does offer access to assistance in terms of not only participating in applying, but also once you become a finalist, there is assistance, technical assistance that will be provided to you to walk through the program. The second thing that I think, and it's something that we did not necessarily harp on today, but that is we subsequently go through 2021, particularly in the next round. This is one of the things that we're going to be imposing on this group of finalists for the first round, but certainly the second group, which is that design matters. This program is become a signature program for the city of Chicago, and we want to make sure as a result, when this grant program is utilized, that the results are quite honestly spectacular. In other words, you've leveraged this grant program to help not only build equity and build wealth, but also to build brand and to help brand not only your business, but branding the corridors and the communities that you decided to invest in. And then lastly, communication is the key here. Whether you're an applicant, whether you are a finalist, you have people on this Zoom call here who are here to help and here to assist. You have community partners who want to hear from you and certainly want to encourage you to invest in their corridors and communities. And communication is literally how to effectively and efficiently navigate this program. So with that, again, I want to thank you all, and I look forward to all of your applications.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks. Mary, Ruben, anything else? You guys want to say anything else?
Sure. Best of luck with your applications, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. We do look forward to reviewing each and every one of your applications. Last few things I want to say, use your community partners, definitely think about the design, and please take your time with the application. I understand you might be antsy and ready to go, submit this application today, you just heard about it, be the first in line. This isn't first come, first serve. This is please take your time to submit the correct application that best represents your project. Best of luck, and again, look forward to reviewing all your applications.
Yeah, good luck, everyone.
Yeah.
Look forward to seeing all the applications.
Cool, thanks. And yeah, just to reiterate, we read every single application that comes in. So definitely take your time, reach out to the community partners, look at the community plans. To Jim's point of design being an important, the neighborhoods that the NOF program works in, we want this program to make it an attraction. We want it to be a destination, not just for the local residents, but for other residents of the city of Chicago to want to come and visit. So definitely think about that as you're pulling together your application, and good luck. Thank you, everyone. Take care. Have a great week.
Thank you, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.